Hello, everybody, which is nobody. This is just a test mostly. Wanted to drop some thoughts on the end of times, which isn't the end of the world. It's just sin has completely dominated most of our culture, and people have lost the true connection with the Lord, Creator, Source, whatever you want to call it. And it's strange times. I think the church has lost the connection to the fact of we're trying to get somewhere other than here. I mean, the church in the world is no different than just any other belief system. And you can believe whatever you want. But it's in the work. And I've been doing a lot of reading here through the Book of Tanya, which is a Hebrew text by, let's see here. What's the rabbi's name? Get through the Hebrew parts. Yes, Rabbi Meshulam Zusel of Enipo. But I've been trying to, the big three religions, Islam, Christianity, Judaism, they all come from the same source. They're all basically descended from Abraham. And they all, in their esoteric, the meat of the religion, they're all talking about the infinite light, the Ein Sof, the oceans of light of Allah. And in Christianity, the more on the Gnostic side of the Pleroma, the infinite. And you're not going to get the infinite from a finite book. You have to analyze it in an analogical, metaphorical fashion. And the way it's taught these days, it's done in a very worldly fashion where, you read the book, you learn. But you have to go deep within yourself if you're really going to get into it. And I'm no Tzaddik, maybe a Benoni, more likely a Rasha, if we're going to be completely honest. Internally, I don't attack people. I don't get angry with people. But you have to be realistic when you're doing this kind of thing, because the self-deception is very easy to do and very common in our spiritual times. People are very quick to say, oh, I've met God, I am God. But that really doesn't happen. And for me, what took me to have the realization, I've always read and studied, but touching the hand of God is not a fun thing to do. It crushes you. Because I was running the other direction. I was like, God. And you get in a car crash, that'll change your thoughts on it. Really kind of triggered a mystical awakening for me. I woke up with the rising sun and stared into the sun one morning. I closed my eyes and I saw a whirling dervish, which is just Sufi, part of the Sufi tradition. I like to think it was Shams Tabrizi, but it's really more symbolic than an actual person. But the light, the infinite light, your real connection to God is going to happen within yourself. I think for me, it happened breaking your heart wide open, and you know, it's no longer a mental game. It's a full body being, cracking yourself open, a deep yearning. And the way that connects here in the Tanya, they kind of have a redemption through sin aspect. And Rumi would talk about you have to keep breaking your own heart until you open up to the love of the infinite. And I think this is something that's lost in modern Christianity. It's become very passive, orthodoxy still has the idea of, this is not just a cakewalk. You really gotta crack open and, as they say, crucify yourself. And I think it's necessary. And in the West, we've become so passive and intellectualized that doesn't really happen. We don't have suffering in a way that you crucify yourself. And it's strange that trying to make the associations between these three and kind of find a perennial outlook would be incredibly beneficial to the unifying aspect of humanity, which has always been lacking. I'd like to think that, all of the crusades, all of the wars, terrorism, all of this was, religion is of peace and unity in the suffering. It's not creating more suffering so people can figure it out. I mean, that works, I guess. I think here in the 21st century, as it would say in the Tanya, we're finally getting control of our animal soul. With the technology and everything, we're really able to do proper reflections off of each other and gain a worthy understanding. Let's see if I can find the piece. Yeah, here we go. The desire of the animal soul, which is derived from the klipa, is the very opposite of godliness. And it is for the good of man that he may prevail over her and vanquish her, the evil part of the soul. It's strange how it's described as a her, as in the parable of the harlot and the Holy Zohar. Let's see. The explanation of the matter is that a completely righteous man in whom the evil has been converted to goodness and who is consequently called a righteous man who prospers has completely divested himself of the filthy garments of evil. That is to say, he utterly despises the pleasures of this world, finding no enjoyment in human pleasures, of merely gratifying the physical appetites instead of seeking the service of God. G-D, as they say in the Hebrew tradition, inasmuch as they are derived from and originate in the Klipa and Sitra Achra, for whatever it is of the Sitra Achra is hated by the perfectly righteous man with an absolute hatred, by reason of his great love of God and of his holiness, with profuse affection and delight and superlative devotion, as is stated above. For they are antithetical to one another. Thus it is written, I hate them with an absolute hatred. I count them mine enemies. And the only way you're really going to be able to, in my opinion, in this day and age, you got to dive in wholly to understand. I mean, we're so swamped in sin and really spiritually blind that most of us don't actually come out of that well of the evil of the animal soul and discover the divine soul. It speaks further in here about that, how one may come to an absolute point of desperation where you're kind of cracked open. And I believe that's what happened to me. And that's what's missing. When you go to church, it's so focused on the joyful, peaceful aspects. This is, very small-minded because there's a lot of churches and a lot of different pastors, preachers, bishops, etc., with all their, way of doing things. But there's something here that connects the three. And, our worldly integration and blindness to the infinite light, to source, really gets in the way of actually making the divine union and seeing the holy within each other. It's strange. It's ineffable. It really is. I'm struggling to put it into words. And with the coming of Messiah, which I believe is happening, and it's not so much that a man is going to come down in a white robe, but within the ether, the collective unconscious, as Jung would say, if we can maintain peace and find a way to come to study each other's religions, we'll come to an understanding of the unity there, and that will initiate the Messiah. And not so much bring him down to earth, but open our eyes to what he died on the cross for. As the nature of what Robert Anton Wilson called reality tunnels is a very, very strong component. It's not that there's going to be a cloud and everybody's down on the city streets and wow, there's Yeshua. It's much more of an internal connection that happens. And collective realization. I think Rabbi Schneerson called it like a power plant in New York City. You see that light bulb? It goes all the wires to the power plant, and you are that light bulb, and the power plant is the Ein Sof. I don't think he put it like that. I didn't quote that very well. But it's not necessary to call out and point out evil and all that's wrong in the world. The way to go is to recognize those sinful, evil parts within yourself and start cleaning them out and bringing down more light. And that, through your own reflection, will shine upon other people, hopefully by your actions. But I believe it's a non-physical aspect. You know, you can be in a monastery and you will have effects on the collective without any physical interaction. And I think there needs to be that realization that, you don't need to have somebody standing on a pew conveying the word, although that creates a much stronger resonance. People these days, I think, are much more open towards the self transcendent experience instead of having somebody else initiate that for them. I think once you experience yourself, you're much more open to basking in that glory with other people. But this is just some thoughts. This is what the end times are. It's not that the world ends or there's some catastrophe. It's kind of like the light gets dimmer and dimmer and dimmer as we slowly forget and become what is it, enamored by all this stuff, you know technology. And you work your whole life 9 to 5. There, contemplation is an incredibly rare thing, in my opinion. People love to watch videos and, you know, well, I'm getting off track. But yeah, I think the end times is a slow. The candle reaches the end of the wick, and then once that candle's out, and you don't have any matches, what do you do? So that's the point behind keeping the faith alive within yourself. But yeah, this is just a little test video trying to testify my experience a bit more. Maybe bring some essence to other people. But at the very least, this is just me talking to the one and using you as a reflection. But I think I'm going to leave it at that for today. It's about 20 minutes of yammering. It's nice to have somebody listen if anybody watches this.